this morning.
Good morning and welcome back to the Now Morning Show, where we are having a special episode educating you ahead of the Spiritual Baptist holiday happening this weekend. And this morning we've set the precedents, giving you a bit of history, honoring those that came before. We've spoken to women in the faith, and now we are talking about youth in the Spiritual Baptist faith. To have this conversation, Shepherd Rondell Dardane of the Spiritual Baptist faith joins us here on the Now Morning Show. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
An absolute joy, because we do have to talk about the future of the faith, and even just from a younger perspective, why it's important and significant. So we will start with, in terms of your entrance, was it a faith that you were born into, family introduced you to? How did you become a part of the Spiritual Baptist faith?
So as the first part of your answer implied, yes, I was actually born into this faith. My parents are Spiritual Baptists, my grandparents are Spiritual Baptists, both sides. So, yes, I was born into this faith and practiced my entire life. Yes.
Now, when we introduced you as Shepherd Rondell, and that implies some level of authority, some significance to your position in the faith. So does that have anything to do with the fact that you are technically generations into the faith? Or was this something that you took upon yourself? Let me hold a leadership position.
Well, no, it actually has nothing to do with lineage. In that sense, but as I said, it speaks to a level of leadership, and what is, I guess, appropriate about it, especially in this particular setting, is that it is typically given to the younger persons in the faith. So the younger persons, we tend to call them shepherd this, shepherd that, and the like, and it's about grooming into leadership, I would say. So it's about educating the younger ones and giving them that I guess it's almost like giving a title to a position, to a role, so that you could understand better where you are meant to function within the system of the faith.
I like that, where you are meant to function into the system,
Yes.
speaking a bit into the future, if you will.
Yes.
And in that case, there is some significance and very great importance then, not just in terms of your participation in the church, but your everyday life, I would imagine.
Yes.
Can you describe that to me, the importance of the faith to you?
Okay, well, again, because I was born into this faith, it's pretty much my life. It's very difficult for me to be able to separate, Rondell, the private individual, Rondell, the Spiritual Baptist, because they are very much one and the same. And the previous conversation they interviewed, it said, where the mother said that, that the Spiritual Baptist faith it's a lifestyle.
Right.
It really is part of you, and what I really like about it is that so many aspects of it is so genuine, so authentic to especially this native Trinidad and Tobago. So it helps ground me in the sense that I am surrounded by being real and by being me. And having faith in that, and confidence in knowing that what I am and where I am is okay.
That's beautiful. I mean, ultimately, we are all searching for ourselves in one way or the other, whether it be through religion or outside of it. And in your particular case, I particularly appreciate confidence. A lot of young persons are not confident, generally, far less within a faith. Now, your leadership therein may have alluded to that or helped to that, your being born into the faith and having the support of family members. But let's talk about some of those key concepts of the Shelter Baptist faith that allows you to be confident in who you are. You talk about it being intrinsic to us Trinbagonian.
Yes.
Tell me some of those ideologies that help you to stand firm.
Okay, sure. So just to expand a bit and to give a little bit of understanding to what I mean when I say it's intrinsic to us, so the Spiritual Baptist Christian faith, it's the basis of the faith is Christian. So we believe in Christ, we believe in water baptism and all of that. That is the base of the faith. But the songs that we sing, the way that we pray, the way that we operate, it's very much Trinidad and Tobago. So all our hymns, many of them actually rooted in, they have European roots, many of them. But we sing it our own way, with this own accent. We don't try to change up the way we pronounce words. Many of the choruses that we sing, we call them Sankeys. It's in our own dialect.
Right.
It isn't trying to accommodate that Eurocentric type of view. So That is what I mean when I talk about the faith being so genuine and being so much red, white, and black. And I think that is a really important thing. And then coming about the conversation about confidence and stuff like that for the youth in the faith is that another aspect of the faith, and again it speaks to the red, white, and black, is the great sense of community that the faith has. So as a young person, from the time you are, and I'm literally not joking, from the time you are 3, 4, 5 years old, many times you're called to do things in the church. So you get accustomed to being in front. So, and it doesn't matter who you are. So it didn't matter that, you know, I'm a few generations within the faith.
Right.
The same way my friend next to me who just came, they could get called out to do something. So that communal aspect and that aspect wherein the youth is always called to do something so that you get more comfortable doing things, so that if in times to come, if leadership does arise, you know, you aren't starting from zero. Right. But it's something that was fostered through all your years. And that is extremely common in the spiritual Baptist faith.
Fantastic. Yeah. I really appreciate you enlightening me this way, but it does mean I'm going to probe a little more, because he talked about the red, white, and black, and I thought to myself, color is very important in the Caribbean, but particularly in the faith. This morning you're wearing white. Generally, when we see a lot of reverence taking place, there is particular garb that is worn. There are specific things that are in it to the actual practice that I'd like to learn a little bit more about. So Is there any particular reason for today's attire, or are we just looking pretty for TV?
Well, maybe a little bit of both.
I could take it.
Well, you know, it being a segment on youth, you know, white is typically, it is associated with purity and certain things that the joy, the aspects of you that are common. So I thought it best to embody the time frame that we are in right now.
Touché, well done. In terms of what we will look forward to in terms of celebrations this weekend, though, what will we see a lot of? For example, if I were to, as an outsider in terms of the faith, looking on, I'm going to see a lot of persons in color, head wraps, dresses, aprons. Describe to me a little bit about the significance of these attributes. And in terms of, as a younger person, we might want to be a little more trendy. We might want to be a little bit more colorful. Do's and don'ts, if you will.
Okay, sure. Well, the general spiritual Baptist, the spiritual Baptist that you're going to pass on the quasi waiting for maxi, typically, you know, the dress is very simple. There might be a bit of ornamentation, but all in all, it's really simple. Even the places where you get the most amount of style, many times, you know, is with the head wrap. Or maybe the type of fabric that we use to sew our clothes, because, you know, everything has to be sewn. You don't really get this in a store.
Right.
Yeah. So as you're saying, though, the colors, they have different representations, different purposes, if you want to speak. But generally, especially throughout this week, being a week of celebration, you can expect to see the more vibrant colors. Because, again, you know, just like I am today, we're trying to represent the mood and the feel of what this week means to us. So expect to see some reds, expect to see some yellows, expect to see, you know, some pinks, maybe even just us being our authentic self.
I quite like it. I really, really do enjoy that about a general worship altogether. Celebration comes through every part of us.
Yes.
And one last point that I wanted to touch on was the fact that celebration is how we worship.
Yes.
Across all faiths, even across all people. Trinbagonians are known for it.
Yes.
But one of the things that has been attached to the Baptist faith, particularly, was the term the Shouter Baptist faith.
Yes.
And while there was conversation as to whether or not it's a negative connotation or a positive one, before you leave, I want you to give me your perspective on the titles and the associations with the faith. Ultimately, a message to the nation as to who the Shouter Baptists or the spiritual Baptists actually are, as we get ready to head into the holiday. Okay,
sure. So the title of Shouters, it would have had a more derogatory origin, being as a term that is what is used to demean the practices of the spiritual Baptists. And then when you look into the general rhetoric of that period where that term would have come about. And for instance, there are many newspaper articles that you could go back and see. And the way that the spiritual Baptist was spoken about, you could see the sense of classism and elitism that is common and pervasive in that historical context, understanding the history of colonialism and so forth, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the matter. But understanding all of that, I think that's something that is very important and intrinsic to the spiritual Baptist faith, is that though we have experienced and to some extent continue to experience those type of perceptions and that the meaning, I guess, view that certain people may have, is that isn't rooted or it isn't inculcated into the members of the faith. So a general thing that I think that we all could learn from that is that as long as you are confident in the belief that you have, as long as you are confident in the faith that you have, is that many times along the way that persons will try to demean and persons will try to reduce and persons will try to steer away from or towards something that is more, in that sense, societally acceptable. And that reduction by a third party doesn't mean a reduction of your internal self. So because they try doesn't mean that you need to conform. So have confidence in who you are and what you believe, and that confidence will take you beyond not just the person right next to you, but that confidence will take you out into the world.
Beautifully put, and transcending any religious conversation,
Yes.
something we can apply to our entire lives. I thank you genuinely for joining us this morning, Shepherd Ronald Dane of the Spiritual Baptist Faith, giving us some insight from the youth perspective, if you will, as we get ready to celebrate the holiday on Saturday. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and all the best.
Thank you for having me, and same to you.
A pleasure, a pleasure. Guys, when we come back, we have more action on the Now Morning Show, and this special edition. Come back for more.
Spoke to him today.